Jim? Teresa's not here, so would you like to lead us in the pledge tonight? Okay. All right, everyone. I'd like to go ahead and call the regular meeting of the Destin City Council, April 18th, 2022, to order. First up, we don't have a pastor here, so Mr. Bagby, if you'd like to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, can I please take off my G1 and move it to next agenda, please?
G1.
And move it to the next agenda,
Okay.
Mr. Ray.
All right. We have a request to change the agenda, G1, move it to our following meeting. Do I hear a second? Second. I have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's go ahead and take a vote real quick. Ayes have it, so moved. So that's been removed to the following meeting. Is there any other changes or additions to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Okay. Ayes have it, so moved. All right, first up, we have a proclamation recognition of the Destin Elementary and Destin Middle School archery team. They placed first in the National Archery Competition sponsored by the Fish and Wildlife Commission. And at this time, I'd like their coaches. And I'd like their coaches, Allie, Krista, and Jennifer, to come up. To spare me so I don't butcher the young archers' names, I'm going to let the coaches give recognition after they've said a word and tell us a little bit about this accomplishment. Go ahead.
First of all, thank you guys for recognizing us. Just want to once again thank these archers for the amazing work they did on this tournament season. Before this year, we didn't have enough members for a whole team, and we went to states and came out first place. We also had 9 of our team members place in the top 10s in their divisions. Miss Ellie placed fourth. Conley placed third in boys. We also had a 4th grader place first place in girls, which is a huge accomplishment. Usually you don't see that. I guess that's really it. I mean, these kids are amazing. I'm so thankful that we got to meet all of them.
It's a pretty impressive accomplishment, especially archery. Destin's known as the luckiest fishing village in the world, and thanks to y'all, especially you archers, we may be soon known to be one of the most powerful archery teams in the state. So I want to give the kids a big round of applause for a job well done. We got to close it up, everybody. Come on over here. Get that trophy in the front. There we go.
Come on, we know how to do this, guys. Come on.
Okay, you ready? 1, 2,
to go, guys. Thank you.
Good job, guys. Congratulations.
Way to go.
Good job.
All righty then. Next up on the agenda is public comments. I just want to remind everybody, you get 3 minutes to make your comments. You can talk about anything on the agenda or not on the agenda. Also, we do have a couple public hearings. If you speak to a public hearing, that will be, hold that off until the public comment period for the hearings. So with that being said, I want to remind you that there'll be another opportunity at the end of the meeting to make comment, and so you get more than one swipe at the apple. So first up, I'll just start over here at this side of the room because there's more people over here than over here, and see if anybody wants to come up and make public comment tonight in public comment period. Come on up, Claude. You're the only hand that raised. If it's about anything on a public hearing, we can do it during that time.
What you want. I just want to clarify this proposed ordinance that Councilman Destin proposed, and then now we have a first reading, and to put a fixed number of commercial units, commercial square footage that has to be in. My concern is we've waited a long time for a development of the shopping center there at Main Street and 98, and I hope that, that there's nothing that's going to slow that down. And I've talked to Steve O'Connor. He assures me that. Dewey assures me of that. But the language, I'm not a lawyer, so I just want to get it on the record that this is this was not going to interfere with what the public's people want to try to do, because I think it's great for the city to get something done. It's been deteriorating now for 20 years, and it's awful, and it needs to move forward. So if we could get that on the record, I'd like to get that on the record.
All right, thank you, Claude. Mr. Destin, do you want to expand on that at all? You were, I wasn't at the last meeting, but you were the one that had brought up the 10%.
Right.
Go ahead.
Of course, I'll let the land use attorney give a little more detail, but my understanding, this is a minimum of commercial, that this regulates a minimum for commercial use, so if you're all commercial, you're good to go.
If that's the, so did we accomplish that? That's.
My understanding is it would not affect what you do, but the land use attorney would be the better one.
And unfortunately, she's not here, right?
Yeah, she's online. Somewhere.
She's online.
She's on. Well, I'd like to hear her comment.
Okay. Go ahead, Kim.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And I had spoken with Mr. Perry's attorney earlier. Steve O'Connor and I both did, to alleviate his concerns, and that the ordinance would only require, if accepted by the council tonight as currently proposed, a 10% minimum of non-residential off of 98, 20% on 98, and that does not affect any specific proposal for what you're referring to as the public's property at this time.
Okay, thank
Does
you.
that answer the question?
Yes. I think so, yes. All right, thank you, Kim.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Public comment over here? Seeing none? I'll turn to here, and seeing how there's no mad rush to the podium, I'm going to close the public comment portion of this meeting at this time. Just to remind everyone, you get another opportunity to give public comment at the very end of the meeting, and we do have a couple hearings. There'll be an opportunity to speak on those. So up next, we have the consent agenda, and I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Vote is unanimous, so moved. City Manager Lance, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First item up is our quarterly investment report, and I'm going to turn it over to Crystal Strickland to introduce this item. Crystal?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So this evening we have before you the quarterly investment report. This is the first new report since we adopted a new investment policy for the city. So the tables that we have in here are a first draft of trying to meet the new rules in our new investment policy. The short story is we have approximately $16 million invested right now with Raymond James in their capable hands. We have another $7 million at Trustmark that would be eligible for investment, and we're working out the cash flows so that I always maintain $3 million on hand with the city to cover our monthly bills and things. I would also, when you have a moment, I direct your attention to tables 4 and 5 at the end of the agenda summary report. That shows a summary of the amounts and the types of securities that were invested in with their maturities, average weighted maturity. And the last table that we have in the agenda item shows the additions and deductions to the investment fund over the past 5 years, and this is specifically the funds that are on hand with Raymond James. So you can see the investment or the interest earnings have been between $200,000 to $300,000 a year, and so I was able to pull out and show separately the unrealized gain loss, which is just a mark to market, which is basically a number if we were to sell all of the bonds that we were invested in on that particular day of the year. Then we would have sold them in some years at a loss, but we hold to maturity, so just take that with a kind of a grain of salt there. If you have any questions, we have our Raymond James guys here to answer anything you might have. Otherwise, I'm also here if you have any questions.
Councilman Braden?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess Crystal can answer this one. We were at, I thought, 10 million not long ago with Raymond James. When did we get to 16?
That's correct. So our investment policy, we have about 10 million that is our reserves, and those we keep as the core with Raymond James. That's equivalent to 3 months of operating money plus 3 months of emergency money plus 1 year of debt service. That's our 10 million that's committed, that stays with them. But better investment practices, when the bulk of our cash comes into the city in the December-January timeframe from the ad valorem, best practices would have me move that into very safe, very liquid investments, and then just to draw down on a monthly basis to top up our operating account. And that way we have more of our funds working for us at any given time. And we're working on tightening up that strategy.
About how long ago did we move from 10 or to the 16 million?
Last year I moved in 5 million last year, and this year I moved in another nearly $2 million.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. Did we make any dramatic changes now that we're under a new investment plan, we didn't have before and after comparisons?
No dramatic changes have been made yet. Because of the state of the market right now, the one big change you're going to see is that we're going to exit investments in BBB rated corporate paper, but we elevated the rating standard, and we're waiting for the market to slowly rise, and as it is reasonable to do so, we are switching to higher graded items. That's the only change that we've really,
Okay.
that's the substantive main.
I'm sorry. The other question I was going to ask, and this, has nothing different than what we've done in the past. When you have money in Trustmark or even in Raymond James, FDIC only insures a certain amount, right? And is there, okay, tell me how our funds are insured or protected.
Yeah, you're correct. Well, first of all, the funds with Trustmark has to be a qualified public depositor in order to have our funds. So
Right.
We're insured by the state because it's a qualified public depository. The funds that we have with Raymond James, the only ones that would be at risk of the FDIC maximums of like the $250,000 per account, that would be the money that we put in certificates of deposit. So when they have a lot of our money, as you can see, in U.S. Treasuries and other types of things, but we also have an account that's the certificates of deposit, and those, they make sure that they don't invest too much in any one bank for the CDs to make sure that they're always covered by the FDIC.
Well, I was sure that's what you were doing. I just wanted for the public, everybody to understand that. Thank you.
That's correct.
Mr. Bagby.
No, good job. Great job, guys. We're in this transition period, so you'll see negative balances or something. Don't get too excited. As we transition, we should get closer to our benchmarks or exceed our benchmarks is our expectation. But right now we're in that transition period where, as Crystal said, we're getting rid of even though they are investment grade, they were BBB. And so that's not good enough with our money. And so it'll take us till October, but in October we'll get a report and we'll be good. Great job, thanks.
While we have Brian here, any questions you guys might have from Raymond James? You get off the hook again?
Keep doing what you're doing.
That means that they're doing a good job, and so is Crystal, so that's good. Any other questions for Crystal? Seeing none, thank you.
Second item is the FY23 budget calendar. And once again, I'm going to let Crystal introduce this item. Staff is looking for a motion from council to approve the proposed calendar.
Yes, so here before you, we have the proposed budget calendar for to adopt the FY23 budget. The most important dates to put your eyes on, I've scheduled the first budget workshop for the operating side of the budget for May 17th. The next most important date is public hearing number 1, which I've scheduled for Tuesday, September 6th. In between, we have staff and directors working very hard on their draft operating budgets, and next month we'll focus on the capital to bring that to you at a second workshop in June. So I'm here to answer any questions about the budget calendar if you have them.
We do need a motion here on this. I'll entertain
I
that.
move to approve the fiscal year 2023 budget calendar to set budget and millage adoption public hearing number 1 for September 8th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. in the regular council chambers at 4100 Indian Bayou Trail.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, let's go ahead.
Will these be all live streamed as a workshop?
Yes. Yes. All right. Any further discussion, questions? Seeing none, let's go ahead and take a vote. Waiting on Mr. Bagby. The vote is unanimous, so moved. And Crystal, at the first workshop's May 17th?
That's correct.
Okay, I'll put that on my calendar.
It would be great if you all would all be here and bring your friends.
All right, sounds good. May 17th, it'll be the budget workshop for any concerned citizens that would like to attend that. We encourage your input. All right, moving forward, go ahead, Lance.
Thank you, sir. And just one quick note on the budget calendar is that staff is already undertaking the budget input. We've moved the process up a month, so we've actually set a new deadline for the end of this month for the operational budgets to be in place. And towards the end of this week, we're looking for any changes in personnel to be brought forward in written format. So that's a change from the past. So I wanted you to know how early staff starts this process. So they're already working on it. The third item I have here, item C, is a facilities condition assessment for capital improvement planning. We have both Sal and Cameron here from Matrix, and they are going to run phase one if this is approved. And I will turn it over to Michael to introduce this item.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. City Manager. During the last year, the FY22 budget process, the topic of future capital improvement planning came up several times. And at that time, we said that for this year, we would like to embark on a project to create a conditions assessment for each of our facilities. Covers the building envelope, parking lot, roofs, HVAC, mechanical, all the components of every facility that we have. I think we have around 20 on the inventory. We did advertise an RFP for this. It was a little beyond the scope of what we talked about initially, but we have dialed it back down to what we have committed to council to in achieving. And what this will do is it's about this is task one. It could be a multi-phase process, but task one involves a needs and condition survey of each of our buildings, property condition reporting, the development of a corrective action schedule along with engineers' cost estimations of cost, and then a capital improvement planning component where we will have actual real field collected data on all of our system components and buildings for capital improvement planning for the next year, 5 years, 10 years. I believe it goes out to 20 years. We did advertise the RFP. We did have a couple of submissions. The bid committee reviewed each submission and selected Matrix as our recommended vendor. And like the city manager says, we do have two representatives from Matrix here tonight to answer any questions that you may have.
One quick note, if I may, it was brought up by one of the council members that we needed to consider adding Dalton Threadgill to this list. And I did check with Michael. I think he agrees that that's a good idea. So we would want to add that facility to the list.
Mr. Braden.
Thank you, Mayor. How long will this generally take to get the report back?
Hit the button.
It'd be 8 weeks from contract execution.
And then does that include the beach accesses as facilities, or is it just really just about the employee facilities?
So admin facilities, outdoor restrooms, it's included in the draft contract that's actually in the agenda packet. Absolutely.
Mr. Destin.
And that was a question, one of the questions I was going to ask, how long the contract is for a year, or how long is it?
So for phase one, just this initial task, which just identifies how to maintain your existing assets, it's 8 weeks just for that task.
Okay, and the document we're signing, is that just for phase one, or is it longer?
It's just for phase one.
Okay, and the reason I ask is, what's happening with our construction management RFQ, or where are we on that? And the reason I ask is, this kind of service is usually part of that contract.
So Jeff, I'm going to let you update that because it's coming due, right?
That's correct. It's due the 28th of this month.
Okay, do we have anybody?
I'm not sure if we do. Ray might be able to better answer that question if there's any bid holders already or not.
We have a couple of bid holders right now. I'm not sure who they are.
Okay.
Mature if that may be part of that contract.
Anybody want to respond to that?
The only one, and maybe Crystal might want to jump in on this too, is that this is for the existing structures, not for new projects
Yep,
that I know.
and I understand, and
Okay.
having had 8 years' experience with it, they did it for all the facilities at the school district. That was part of their service. So are we going to spend $40,000 that we don't need to spend if it's part of the other contract? If you guys are in a big hurry?
Michael might be able to speak better to this, but I don't believe in the capital project management RFB that we have out on the street right now. I don't believe that they had a facilities conditions and assessment in there. We are going through massive software updates this year, and one of the largest items on our task list to be completed this coming fall, winter is a fixed asset management software. And so the data that Matrix would be collecting is the data that will be going into that new software. And that's part of the plan, is they would help us update that new software when it comes in. Because the software we're using right now just is antiquated and it's not helpful.
Well, of course, I understand that part, but we don't have a contract with a construction management firm yet, so to say it's not in the contract or in the request, it would be if we put it in there. And, you know, I'm probably going to vote to support this, but as often the case, we might get to spend money twice, or at least once, and not need it later.
In your evaluation, that's in this contract right here, will some of that be covered, the concerns that Mr. Destin has about the evaluation of the
Yeah, so
things that
during the acquisition process, I know there was an additional questionnaire that came out specific to your very question, because I think the intent is to bring on Tyler EAM, and when that happens through this construction management transition, you'll essentially have a shell that can be populated over time, or in contrast, similar to the where we're headed now, you'll have that data up front at hand, so it'll all be populated from the very beginning.
All right, next is Mr. Bagby and then Mr. Wagner. You good?
Yeah, the first thing I'll do is I'll make the recommended motion, and then I have about 3 things I want to discuss. I move that the mayor execute the attached standard agreement for professional services with Matrix Design Group Incorporated.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Do we need to add the Threadgill in the motion to the attachment, or are we just we good to cover that?
Well, before we get there, I have 2 other things that I want to add also.
Okay. All right, so what we got a motion, we got a second, so now we're gonna have discussion.
Yeah, now we can have the discussion.
All right, and so I'll just, Bobby, you were up, so I'm gonna, you're good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Okay,
So
so-
Mr. Bagby, you said you were up,
Yep.
so have at it.
So I would also, as part of our facilities or our public parking lots, add those, because when you're doing this, I don't know how the asphalt is. Actually, I could probably figure it out, but you're going to have to reseal the asphalt after so many years, and then you're going to have to resurface at least about 1 inch or 1.5 inches after so many years. And so that's a cost. I think what I thought the answer to your question was, Mr. Destin, is we're starting from zero. We don't have a database that says, here's the age of all the air handlers at the community center or at the annex or whatever. So if we don't have anything, once we get a construction manager, their job becomes much easier when we know the age of the building or the age of the air conditioners or the age of the parking lots or the age of the fences, how long those are expected to last, and what the replacement costs, because this is hopefully feeding into the budget that the staff is developing for 23 that says next year we're going to have to spend you know, $158,000 on R&R fund, and here's where it's going to be. It's going to be for 2 trucks, it's going to be for 3 air conditioners, it's going to be for 4 computers, it's going to be, and here's where all that's located, and it's all in that database. And so while I know we're going to get a construction manager, or I feel comfortable that we are, I'm not sure we're going to get them, and they have enough time to populate the database, help develop the budget for the R&R fund, the replacement fund for next fiscal year. And I thought that's why we went out for this RFP. If I misunderstood, I apologize, and feel free to correct me, but that's what I thought the answers were. Because I agree, we need a construction manager, but right now we need a construction manager to help us with our construction projects more than going out and calculating how old air conditioning is and how many how many years it has left in life. But yeah, if we could add, it's a capital project. So the parking lot, those public parking lots are a capital project. And there was one more, the new park, even though everything will have, 20 years remaining on the roof or whatever the max life of them are, the new park ought to be on there. It shouldn't take them more than 5 minutes to walk down there and go, yep, it's got the whole life expectancy of the whole thing if it gets done before they get down there, but that's another point.
All right, thank you, Jim. All right, any further discussion? We have a motion, we have a second.
One question.
Go ahead, Mr. Destin.
As we add these facilities, it affects the price, guys, or? No. All right. All right.
Let's go before they change their mind.
Good answer. All right, let's go ahead and take a vote. Vote is unanimous, so moved. All right, Lance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. A few quick announcements. There is a coastal cleanup, 2 locations this weekend, this Saturday. One location, Joe's Bayou, the other location, Noriego Point Park. And for more information on that, it's on the website. I don't know if Catherine has the times, because I don't have the times with me.
It's also part of Mattie Kelly Nature Walk. I believe it was from 8 to 10 a.m.
Thank you, Catherine.
Sure.
Also, we mentioned Captain Royal Melbourne Heritage Park, and I think you're all aware of this, but we did extend the deadline on that from the 11th of April, and we gave an extra 30 days so they can hopefully bring things to the finish line. Arbor Day celebration, April 29th at 10 a.m. That's going to be at the Kel Air North Park. That's the smaller park over in Kel Air. And I believe that's all I have. No, there's one more, I'm sorry. Tomorrow at 11 a.m. at the library, the Blue Star Memorial that we've been talking about is going to be installed. So if you can make it over there for that installation, that would be great. Thank you, and that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Well, fortunately for me and Ms. Kopp, our city attorney beat traffic in time. And so we don't have to do all the proclamations and all the fancy word. I'll let you do it. So let's go ahead and start our...
All right, I'll kick off our public hearing.
5A, our first public hearing. Go ahead, sir.
All right, first we have 5A. This is proposed conditional use 2140 CU, Destin Smoke Shop, and other miscellaneous store retailers uses in the City of Destin Land Development Code. At this time, if I could get any member of staff who plans on testifying to please stand and raise your right hand. Any member of the public who plans on testifying, and the applicant to stand and raise your right hand as well. All right, is the applicant here for this item? Steve, do you see him here? Doesn't look like it. Okay, I guess it's just going to be staff today then. All right, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth? All right, thanks. And let's go down and do our usual ex parte disclosure, starting with Kevin.
Nada. None.
No.
No. No communication.
None.
No, sir.
Thanks, guys. And Steve, I'll turn it back over to you then.
Okay, real quick, one quick clarification on this. The agenda item should read proposed conditional use 2140 CU, Destin Smoke Shop, a other miscellaneous store retailer, because we don't have smoke shop as a use in our land use table, but we do have other miscellaneous store retailer. And so to keep everything clean and tight, it's being classified as that, and that's why it's coming through for the conditional use, because the other miscellaneous retail store is what it's classified as. So it's not two different shops. It's a other retail miscellaneous store that happens to be a smoke shop. So with that, we have planner Tunazina Alam, who will be presenting, as she has taken this application from the very beginning, from completeness to now. So.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. So, S Food Mart 9 LLC has requested this conditional use approval for a smoke shop, as Steve mentioned, is classified as other miscellaneous store retailers in our LDC, to be located at the vacant unit of 34894 Emerald Coast Parkway. The proposed use, the location is within the commercial general zoning district, and other miscellaneous store retailers are a conditional use per the LDC. Staff has reviewed and analyzed the proposed use based on the future land use element of the comprehensive plan and conditional use criteria in the land development code, as directed by the city's comprehensive plan policy 1-2.3.2. The commercial general zoning district is intended to accommodate general retail sales and services. The proposed use of a smoke shop should qualify as a miscellaneous store retailer and therefore is in line with the intent of this zoning district. When reviewed and analyzed per the criteria outlined in LDC section 7.12.10 of the Land Development Code, staff checked land use compatibility, site size sufficiency, specifications and infrastructure, proper use of mitigative techniques and hazardous waste, as well as over-proliferation of use and compliance with applicable laws and ordinances. It is worth noting that there are 3 units total in that location in the existing building, which includes an ice cream shop, fitness center, along with this proposed smoke shop. So there are possibilities of overlapping peak hours. The applicant has submitted a shared parking analysis and agreement that illustrates those peak hours of parking demand for each use that do not overlap, suggesting that the parking on site is sufficient for all 3 uses. Additionally, said shared parking agreement shall be recorded in the public records of Okaloosa County, Florida, prior to the issuance of any building permit or certificate of occupancy. I want to add to that, as proposed, there are no external site improvements being considered. The total number of parking spaces on lot is 30, including 2 ADA spaces, but currently the requirement is 28, so they have 2 more than what is required for the total complex. The proposed use links to the economic development and revitalization strategic goals and objectives of Destin. There is no anticipated impact on the budget or level of service. Based upon these findings, staff recommends approval of conditional use 2140 CU, provided that the applicant record the shared parking agreement with the Okaloosa County.
Thank you very much. This is a public hearing, so at this time I will open up any public comments for this proposed conditional use on the other miscellaneous store, which happens to be the Destin Smoke Shop. Is there anyone here in the audience that wants to make a comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion of the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion at this time for discussion.
I move that City Council approve conditional use 21-40-CU with the following condition: the applicant shall provide the city with proof of record of the executed shared parking agreement.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's take a vote. The vote is unanimous, so moved. Mr. Bowman.
Thank you. Next, we have item 5B. This is Major Development Order 2121 SP Gregory Uzdevinis, I hope I pronounced that right, on behalf of William and Martin, is requesting approval for a major development order. The project is located at 90 Cybert Avenue, parcel ID 002S22031000A 073E, with the property totaling approximately 0.43 acres. The applicant is proposing to construct a two-story parking structure to serve the McGuire's restaurant, as well as the Harbor View Shopping Center. This time again, if I get any member of staff who plans to testify, please stand and raise your right hand. The applicant, if you are here, please stand and raise your right hand. See you guys down there. And any member of public who plans on testifying, please stand and raise your right hand. Seeing no public. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth? All right, thank you guys. Again, starting with Kevin, we'll see if there's any ex parte communications.
Nothing. None.
No communications.
No, sir.
None.
No, sir.
All right, thanks guys, and Steve, we'll go back to you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks, Kyle. As stated, this is an application for a construction of a two-story parking structure to serve the McGuire's restaurant as well as the surrounding Harbor View Shopping Center. This property is 90 Cybert Avenue, which has the future land use designation of North Harbor Mixed Use, as well as the current zoning designation of North Harbor Mixed Use. Parking lots and parking garages, public and private, per Land Development Code, are an allowable or permitted use within the North Harbor Mixed Use Zoning District. As so, it would be such an appropriate use within this future land use designation. The proposed height, floor area ratio, setbacks, open space are all compliant with the Land Development Code. It is worth noting that currently the site is non-conforming in its parking provided, but the construction of this parking structure would now bring them into compliance with the parking regulations located in Article 8. They are in the MMTD, so they get the 80% of the full 100% required parking. So they would have 241, the max would be 246. It does meet the landscaping requirements in the City Land Development Code, as well as furthering the strategy of the future land, or the comprehensive plan of economic development and revitalization, which is strategic goal 2026 number 5. With that being said, staff does recommend City Council approve the McGuire's parking structure major development order, and I, as well as the applicant, are here to field any questions.
All right. Does the applicants want to make a comment before I open up for public comment? Come on up.
Yeah. My name is Greg Eustavenis. I'm the architect on the project. Mr. Martin, the owner, is back there. The only comment I want to make is I've been involved with McGuire's both here and in Pensacola for 25 years. This piece of property is pretty much useless. As everyone probably knows, there's a 25-foot embankment coming off the back of the existing shopping center down. They have used it in the past just for employee parking. They're going to spend a fortune on this. It's going to improve the parking. It's going to look fantastic. I am biased. So that's my only comment.
All right. I got a lot of folks queued up. What I'd like to do is go ahead and do the public comment portion of it, and then as we have it, we'll get a motion, and as we have questions, we'll probably call you back up here again at that time. You can go ahead and turn that microphone off and stay close. There'll probably be some questions. So with that being said, I'm going to open up public comment. If anybody wants to make a comment in the room? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment period portion of the hearing, and I will entertain a motion for discussion.
I move that the City Council approve McGuire's parking structure a major development order.
Second. I got a motion and a second. First up, Mr. Braden.
Thank you, Mayor. Did I hear staff say that they're not in compliance with their parking now?
Correct.
How long has that been going on?
I can't answer that.
I'm sorry? Okay, no more questions. Thank you.
Yeah, probably anybody with any of that knowledge is long gone at this point. Okay, Mr. Wagner, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you. Thank you for putting this down there. First of all, I am excited. I think it might be a step towards others following you as well, maybe us. The designs, I'm not an architect or an engineer, but it looks really cool based on the design. So I imagine it's going to look very pretty as well, which is exciting. I'm curious about two things. One, a non-conforming use right now, as Mr. Braden said, of the parking lot, which I know people get as many cars as they can in there right now, but how does it affect the flood, the water, going from what it is to a two-story building? Like, how does that, I guess it's been approved, I see, but I guess just my non-understanding architect mind, engineer, we have an empty lot right now that we're going to put a two-story complex on. It's not very big, so where does all the water go?
According to the design, most of the stormwater is going to be placed underneath the building. There will be some surface retention in some of the open areas, but that's where it's going at the moment.
Okay. And I heard you say we're going to about 240-something vehicles? Is that what you said, Dan?
They'll have 241 spaces on site.
And right now you're getting maybe like 20-ish over there, or 30?
Total for the shopping center and the parking structure.
Oh, not just the new structure being built. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to picture that in my mind. 2 stories, I couldn't calculate two. We got to get him to design our parking lots if that was the case. Okay, thank you. That makes a lot more sense. And lastly, will it be like gated? Will public be able to use it, or is there going to be a guard there that's closing it off still for only employees, or open? So it'll kind of be an open, whoever can park there. Okay. Thank you so much. That's all I had.
Mr. Wagner.
This is probably more of our responsibility, but the right-of-ways that are going up both sides of streets that corner intersects, has there been any thought on us helping you guys continue the beautification up the streets? Because I know it's kind of a sore eye with just the overgrown bushes, trees, and litter on everything. I didn't know if we had any plans to add to your guys' beautification.
Can you answer that?
Yeah, there's a city requirement to provide a 10-foot landscape buffer there as well as a sidewalk.
Got it. But going up the street, so kind of outside this parcel, this corner, as you continue up Cybert or Zerby, as you get kind of to it's not 15 feet hill, but it's more of like a 5 to 2 foot hill. I think that might be our responsibility, but I didn't know if there's anything there to work together to clean up the rest of the back corner of McGuire's.
Yeah, there's pretty much, an embankment all the way up there that's highly vegetated.
Yeah.
Right now.
Does that fall under the city's responsibility if we were going to change something up?
I'm not sure of that.
Smart man.
I think we're talking about those vines we cut back off the street a few months ago. Do you think that all the way to the stop sign? I think that's kind of what he's getting to. Is all that going to be cleared because it's going to be under construction, or is it going to still be a lot of vegetation towards the stop sign?
Yeah, there's obviously there's a pretty substantial retaining wall that we have to put in because of the embankment. It's like a 25-foot drop off there to get the parking underneath, the elevator, and so forth and so on. That retaining wall comes and then turns up Siebert and Cybe, and all that's going to be landscaped. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I guess that was my better way of saying it. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Bagby, then we'll take a vote.
Looks like you missed me, Mayor.
Yeah. No, it looks great. Yeah, he was ahead of me. I don't know what happened.
Doesn't matter.
Go ahead.
Hey, put us back to the discussion, right? I'm on voting. Go ahead, Mr. Destin, if you want to take Mr. Bagby.
Thank you, thank you, Mayor. For the record, the shopping center has been there long enough that there was no city of Destin, and I don't even think the county had instituted zoning in Destin at that time. So the number of parking that they had were grandfathered in, and I want to congratulate McGuire's.
Great-grandfather.
Yep, great-great-grandfather. Congratulate McGuire's on spending the money it takes to acquire some more parking, because they can use it. The only question, I have one question, and that is, the surface lot that they have now has an entrance on Seibert and an exit on Zerby. Seibert is a more traveled road, and I noticed this design has both the entrance and the exit on Seibert. In addition to that, the city has entertained the possibility of making Seibert a one-way in the past. We never did it, but did you guys design that on purpose, or were you directed to have all of it coming off?
Well, the original proposal and conceptual plans had an entry on from both streets, and the I think engineering turned that down.
Our engineering?
Yeah.
Engineering, you want to explain that?
There is a throat clearance requirement. One of the items that is required for these newer developments to provide a way into the site without being in the right-of-way or on the street as they're coming in for parking. The other is combining in the multimodal transportation, Old Destin Multimodal Transportation District, there is a requirement to consolidate access ways.
Well, now, on the project before this, the smoke shop, we waived the parking requirements. We don't have the ability to use common sense and let them have two entrances into that garage when they originally proposed that.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
I honestly think, the original concept was submitted some time ago, but after thinking about it, we obviously could pick up more parking spaces by just having one entry because of the 40-foot requirement. Plus the fact through traffic, people, who knows who, coming, ripping through there. I've got an elevator, a pedestrian walk in from the street to get up to the second level. So I thought it was a good idea just to have one.
Well, if you guys are in agreement with it, then I will withdraw my objection. But I used to climb up that hill before the steps were there as about a 10-year-old, and I'm just proud the steps are there.
All right, Mr. Bagby, and then we'll go ahead and take a vote after we're
Thanks.
done.
I couldn't tell from the civils, are you using pilings or are you using footers? What is holding this up?
They're pilings.
They're pilings?
Yeah, you
Okay.
have pile caps on the pilings, and then your
Okay.
concrete columns come up off of that.
Okay.
I mean, it's
All right.
going to be substantial
Because
and
to
costly.
Yeah. No, it's great, but to Kevin's point, it's like, we could build a parking garage and connect over the street on the second level, or maybe we built a third level on ours. And so at some point, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't going to be anything going out that we couldn't put in the ground to connect there in the right way. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
I do have one. There was are you going to bring up the sidewalk extension issue?
We can certainly discuss that if you'd like to.
Well, I thought, that was something that the council had approved a waiver on that.
Yeah, it's in the plan. So what Mr. Uzdevenes is speaking to is you can tell on the civils that the sidewalk does not continue all the way south along Seibert. And that is basically because city staff has come to the conclusion that that would be very cost prohibitive to the engineering involved to get a sidewalk to continue south there. Would require too much engineering to continue that, and they provide pedestrian access with that sidewalk linking to the stairway in the parking garage as well as the elevator up to the deck that is then level with Highway 98. So that's how the pedestrian access is continued through the site down to Highway 98. So.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Real quick, Mr. Mayor, I need to make staff needs to make one clarifying comment. Per the application, the parking garage is not open to the public in that it's meant for anyone just to park. It's meant for patrons of the site in that the public patrons can park there Otherwise, if it were just open to the public, staff would have required a new traffic analysis, as this would have driven more traffic to the site. But the parking per the application is meant for the patrons of the site only.
Yeah, we get that, but we all know the reality of the situation. People are going to park there.
Absolutely.
Hopefully McGuire's gets their fair share of them, but
absolutely.
But I know you're saying that as an official disclaimer, and it is now on the public record, and it's so noted. All right. With that duly noted, we have a motion. We have a second. We've had discussion, and we will now take a vote. Ayes have it, so moved, and we're on to the next one.
Yep, next is 5C. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2206 LC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, changing the list of permitted uses in the industrial zoning district to allow one custodian or night watchman residence per industrial site, amending Table 7-2, Table of Allowable Uses, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the Land Development Code, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date, and this is a public hearing.
And seeing how it's a public hearing, I'm going to open up public comment at this portion of the hearing. For the first reading of ordinance 22-06-LC. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make a comment on this first reading of ordinance? Seeing none, I will close the public comment portion of it and entertain a motion at this time. Not all at once.
I move the City Council approve ordinance 2206 LC on first reading.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and take a vote. Oh, go ahead, sir. I'm just going to lead the button press.
Yep. I had a couple of questions. While I understand the need to have someone on site in these industrial zoning sites, the question I have is, I can't see any size restrictions. So how did we build a 5,000 square foot residential? I don't see that we have any restrictions on once it's built, since we can't even stop anybody from placing their residence on a vacation rental. Is that going to be restricted, which all of that would be inappropriate in these industrial sites? So it just seems so general to me. It may be going beyond what we really want to do. And of course, the other question I have is, Mr. Bagby and I have kicked around on a number of occasions, this type of a proposal needs to have a legislative sponsor on this council, and I don't know who that is. So if we have an answer to any of those questions, how can we restrict or the size of this residential?
Well, we're in the first reading, so I think we can make changes. This is the time and place to make additions. So would you have a recommendation on square footage on a site?
I have not gone to that point, and of course, if we make conditions, it will be back to first reading.
Kim?
I think I hear somebody chirping.
Go ahead, Kim.
Well, yeah, I can, I'm chirping. I can answer that. We certainly can put in size restrictions. At this point, staff only put in a restriction on the number of residential dwelling units, which is one. However, that does not speak to size. So if that's something the council wants to do, we would bring it back again for first reading with that change. And with respect to the legislative sponsor, the reason that staff brought it forward now is because they actually had an applicant come in that needed or that wanted to have a storage unit converted to a residential unit for a security night watchman in the industrial district. We would have simply included this in some of the LDC rewrite because it is a change that should be made to code for consistency with the comp plan. The comp plan already contemplates this, but because that actual application came in, staff wanted to move it forward. However, again, it's in the discretion of the city council.
Okay. Well,
I would think, Mr. Destin, something around 1,000 to 1,200 square foot is a maximum.
I would think that we need to have some restriction on it, and also the ability to rent it out to someone who's not associated with security on that site is not a good thing.
Yeah, prohibition on any type of short-term rental.
Or long-term, for that matter.
Or
no, it could not be
a rental.
It could not be rented out for
any reason.
It could not be rented out for something that's not a security guard.
Can you make those changes and bring it back for first reading, or should we go forward? And will those changes be substantial enough to cause it to have to go back to first reading?
I think if we're going to put a size requirement in, we should go ahead and go back to first reading. Because I believe that will change, we should change the title of the ordinance for
All right.
public notice.
So the motion was to approve, and then we had a second. So let's just go ahead and vote on that, and then, go ahead.
Are we in agreement that the size restriction would be no greater than 1,200 square feet?
I don't have a problem with that. That's a pretty good size little apartment.
Yeah, I mean, if we're trying to prevent a single-family home, I mean, it's pretty decent size. So should it be smaller then, or what's the point of putting a size restriction that
Well,
big?
the only thing I was thinking is usually when you're thinking about a guard, you're thinking about one person, but it could be a married person, and so having a bedroom and a bath and a living room and a thing, somewhere between around 1,000 or 900 square foot. That's not very big.
I would just leave it to the land use attorney to consult with staff and see what they come up with.
How's that sound, Kim?
I think that's reasonable. Staff may have input. The other way we could do it is, you know, a square footage that is based on the size of the overall project. So if you want, staff and I can discuss that and come back with the recommended square footage at the next meeting, or we can go ahead with your suggestion of 9 to 1,200 now. Either way.
Yeah, my recommendation is let the staff and the land use look at it and come back with their recommendation.
So can I just withdraw my motion?
Sure, you can. The substitute will take precedence anyway, so either way is fine.
All right, so we have a substitute motion and a second. Any further discussion? Go ahead and let's take a vote. Vote is unanimous, so moved. Kyle.
Mayor. Next, we have item 5D. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2207 LC, ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, providing for amendments to Article 7 of the Land Development Code, provide for minimum requirements for non-residential components in the Town Center Mixed-Use Zoning District, provide for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the Land Development Code, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date, and this is a public hearing.
Okay, my microphone. I'm not sure what that signal was. Couldn't hear me?
I couldn't hear you, yeah.
That's the first time anybody's ever said that to me. All right. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion of this hearing and entertain a motion.
I will move that we approve 22-07-LC on first reading.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Mr. Schmidt.
I appreciate it. Just so I can understand percentages and a lot of these things, if I'm going to build a 50,000 square foot something on this area, this is meaning that of that 50,000, 10,000 would have to be a commercial, and the rest of it can be residential. Is that? Or 20, depends on where it's connected to 98. But using 20%, so if a minimum. Okay. Square foot.
Correct.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, my only issue is I would like to apply to entries both off 98 and Main Street, because that is the intersection of our town center. And so I'd like for the percentages to apply, if we're going to truly have a town center in that area, that those percentages apply, the minimum percentages apply there. I'm not as concerned about airport or any of the other parts of the town center, but Main Street and 98, I think it should apply. So I would just ask staff, I don't think that would need to kick it back to first reading just to add that, but I would defer to the land use attorney.
I agree with you. I don't think it would need to come back because we would not need to change the title. So we could just move to LPA and second reading with that change.
And as the maker of the motion, I don't have any problem with including that now, if the second would agree.
I'll agree.
Okay.
No, that was going to be my question. Was I didn't know what to do with it, but the question of Main Street there is where does that fall? So thank you.
And that kind of leads up to the comments that Mr. Perry had. He was wanting to understand, making sure that this ordinance wouldn't prevent a project from going forward. So we've addressed that. All right. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and take a vote. The vote is unanimous. So moved. Oh, Ray. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Bowman. Up next, item 6A, Mr. Braden.
Thank you, Mayor. Anybody on staff tell me what's going on with the structure at the foot of the Dustin Bridge? I thought was going to be removed about a year ago. The old abandoned house that's on the north side.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Kim and I had just recently discussed that, Councilman Braden, and we are soon going to be bringing you back, because I remember the last one I did, it's on staff now to have to obtain someone to demo it, because it's currently got a lien on it. It's currently being liened right now at, I think, $250 a day. Is that right, Crystal? I think, yeah. Anyway, so we're going to proceed to get quotes for demolition of that structure to at least get that unsightly building taken away. And obviously, depending on that quote, we may have to bring it back to council for approval. But that's where we're at right now.
So that property's being liened $250 a day as we speak?
Yes, sir.
And the city may get that money. Do we know how many days it's been collecting $250 a day?
Gosh, I don't recall off the top of my head, Mr. Brady. I mean, we can always get you that figure, but it's pretty substantial right now,
So
if I recall.
I guess the city would obtain that money possibly if they sold it or try to refinance it or something?
Correct.
Do they, I mean, is there any reason why they haven't torn it down and opted to just?
We just never got any kind of response from the owner of that parcel. So even when it went through magistrate, no one ever came, no one ever showed up. So, you know, just play on.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, well, thank you so much. That's all I have, Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
Don't we have the ability to take that building down and put a lien against the property for what it took us to take the building down?
Yeah, that's abatement, yes.
Yes, that would be an additional lien.
Yeah, that'll be additional. The abatement
So we can
will
recoup
be
that money spent.
additional to the lien that's on it
And so-
already at that $250 a day.
So the plan is to put the lien that has to do with the code enforcement violations and then tear it down?
I'm sorry, the lien is, there's currently a lien right now.
And that's for?
That's for the daily fines.
And that's the question I'm asking. At what point do we stop the daily fines and go and take the building down and then put that lien on the property? Otherwise, the building is going to stay there for the next 20 years, maybe.
Well, we're going to proceed to go ahead and get it demoed at the, and that it would just be an additional lien.
And the time for that is when?
As soon as we can get some quotes to find out how much it costs. I hope to have that very soon.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
This very item, Mr. Destin, is what I've reached out to Kim to talk about. We're rewriting our LDC now, and the present system we've been using on violations and magistrate is so arduous and time consuming. That's one thing that I've asked them to do as they present each one of these articles of the LDC to be rewrite, is to be have a much clearer and aggressive abatement system, because it's not just that property. There's other properties in our community right now that need to be cleaned up, not necessarily, you know, eminent domain, but apparently for whatever reason, we've gone through the violation process, that's not working. So we just need to be able to, in a clear, concise way, go in there, clean it up, hand the bill to the property owner, and if they don't pay it, then there's a lien on their property. So at some point, if they ever sell it, we get paid. So at least our community doesn't have to endure these terrible properties for whatever reason. So I think that's going to be brought before the council here shortly, and it kind of addresses, I wasn't even thinking about that particular piece of property when I brought that idea up. I was thinking more of some residential properties in the city.
I thought that was maybe be the path that we would go on, is, you know, once it went to the magistrate and they're being fined $250 a day, as soon as that went through, then the next day you would start the process as far as tearing the house down, not just sit back for 6 months or a year collecting $250 a day. Just
and that's exactly.
Well, if I can,
go ahead, Kim.
If I can jump in, I think there was and I'm going from memory here, but I think there was an intervening factor there. So in the beginning, when staff had the first code violations, I believe the property owner, I was told, was ill or elderly and was unable to respond, and then that changed back and forth. An attorney got involved at some point and was going to demolish the building and wanted the city to allow them to demolish the building. And I believe at one point we believed they were going to do that, which is why we did not go ahead and proceed with the second lien. However, that then went to the wayside and staff picked it back up and will be processing it themselves. But I think there were some complicating factors. I don't believe that staff just sat back and waited for something to happen. I think there was a lot of intervening factors over the past few months.
And Kim, per our discussions on the abatement issue, will you bring before this council a more proficient way for us to utilize the abatement process after we've gone through the normal violation and magistrate process, so we're not 2, 3, 4 years out trying to get these properties dealt with?
Yeah, absolutely. That code is very outdated. And so that's definitely one of the priorities for the consultant. Of course, we're constrained a little bit by some Florida statutes in Chapter 162. However, we can do some things to make our code more efficient, and we are definitely going to bring that to council in the coming weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I would ask the city manager, this sounds a lot like the derelict vessel thing that we dealt with 10 years ago. And then we developed a matrix, and then all of a sudden we got all the derelict vessels gone because there's a process. The statute has a process, and you got, you know, once you get the fine, then you got to give them 60 days notice. You got to deliver it or hand deliver it or whatever, and then after 60 days you got to do something else, and then after 60 more days, if you've posted or what, and I don't know what the process is for these type things, but there probably is a process, and I would like to see if there is and maybe it's, you know, real simple, or maybe it's not. Maybe there's 3 or 4 steps, but we ought to know what those steps are. We ought to know what the timeline is, and then you ought to bring it back to us. Here's where we are on this parcel. Here's where we are on this parcel. Where we, you know, we've fined them. We have to fine them for so long. I don't know if that's part of the statute or part of our rules, but what is the process? Let's identify the steps of the process. Let's put it on a tracking chart, and then let's execute it, just like we did 10 years ago on the derelict vessels. Thanks.
Well, thanks, Mr. Bagby. And I think that's the discussion I'd had with our land use attorney, and hopefully as her and Lewis keep bringing us our LDCs for these updated. Kim, you said that we're probably a month away from seeing anything, month and a half away from that particular issue. in your rewrite of the LDC? Is that where we're at, Kim, on that timeline-wise?
Yeah, I would say that's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. You done? All right, Mr. Clark. Mr. Wagner.
Super Alfie or Superman?
Mr. Wagner.
The only thing I have is the ECRC, basically me, and I would like to get to the council's representative, the primary seat. I've been able to fill in twice for them. I can fill in, so we're not absent, but I can't vote at that committee. So with Aber not being able to attend, I think between the city and everyone, we've agreed that she's okay with it, and that we're just looking for a council vote to put.
Second.
And I second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's go ahead and take a vote on that. Vote unanimous. Ayes have it. So moved.
All right. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Destin. Mr. Bagby.
Just one thing, Mr. Mayor, for all the first-term city council members, the Institute of Elected Municipal Officials Level 1 training will be June 10th through the 12th in Jacksonville. I would highly encourage you. I mean, we're trying to improve the professionalism of our staff and our committees with some training. We need to get training too, and so I would highly encourage you to apply for that. The city pays for it, pays your mileage, and it is actually a very worthwhile course. I've graduated levels 1 and 2 so far.
Thank you. Mr. King.
Just one thing real quick. Thank you, sir. I had a citizen reach out to me that runs a fishing operation business. I don't know if it would be a charter, but and since we closed down the, I don't know if he was running a business or what, but they were having a night excursion down at Joe's Bayou and were cited by code compliance, and I think they pay all their dues and all their memberships, whatever they got to have to operate out of Joe's Bayou, but was given some heck at Joe's Bayou. I just was going to, told him I'd bring it up since we passed to have the parks closed from Dustin. How do we move forward from situations like this for people who are running businesses that happen to be on the water at night?
So let me chime in a little bit on that. The council, I don't remember how long ago it was. I believe it was back when Mr. Dixon was still on the council. But up until that point, commercial business at Joe's Bayou was not allowed at all. It was strictly recreational use. But at that point, council did vote to allow for commercial vessels to launch vehicles and recover vehicles at Joe's Bayou, but not to conduct business at Joe's Bayou. So I'm not sure about the particulars on this. I would have to know more to answer the question. But if they were conducting business on the city park property, then it would not be okay with our current ordinance that's in place. If it was after hours, that would also not be okay as our current ordinance reads. But I have not been made aware of, and I don't know how recently this happened, any citations to that effect. So I'd like to talk more about it.
Yeah, and so I didn't mean to drop it on you unprepared or without preparing you first. It was brought up the other day, and I meant to bring it up for this agenda and completely forgot. But I think, let me just for clarity. So the majority of the time if I launch a boat at Joe's Bayou, I'm there after dark. I'm going to be there if I'm going light fishing or flounder gigging or something like that. Are we good to do that, or is that a no-go since the park's closed at dark?
So technically, that park is a sun-up to sundown park, but the council has the ability to change the hours of any park within the city. So, and we've done that on some of our parks, like the dog park. We've extended the hours on that. I mean, the council can do that.
Mayor, I thought we did when Tuffy was here. We did extend something down there because people trout fishing at night and floundering at night. I thought we talked about that
I think it was discussed. I don't think, it never got incorporated into the park ordinances.
Yeah, I think, especially for the recreational angler, like you said, trout fishermen, folks in the fall and spring like to gig for flounders. I mean, and you're out till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So, you know, being able to launch your boat and to pick it up in the dark is the norm, you know, for folks that like to do that. The only concern I would have is you know, nobody's going to be there. So what's our liability city-wise for people to get hurt or drown because it's nighttime? So, you know, maybe that's something our city attorney can look into, or our city manager, because my gut reaction is, as long as they're launching a boat and pulling a boat out and not conducting a business, then they ought to be able to, you know, we should allow it as long as there's not a liability issue for us.
So I'm happy to look into it, and I'll work with Kyle on that too. I just do, as a parks person in a previous lifetime, I do just want to remind everybody that that park is located dead center in the middle of a residential neighborhood.
Roger.
So we don't want a bunch of noise late at night that's going to impact the neighborhood too.
And unfortunately, here's another fact about this whole launching at Joe's Bayou. A lot of the guys that are doing that, especially state licensed guides in the day, they're doing it in daytime, but then they're going over picking up people where they're not supposed to be picking them up, and you know, it's just kind of tough. It's almost like we're creating a problem by allowing any commercial operation out of Joe's Bayou boat ramp anyways. Now, there is a paid boat ramp that's owned by a private company, and they can do whatever they want, but that's the downside. Not everybody's honest and doing everything the right way, and so we have created a little bit of a problem for our own code enforcement people by allowing businesses to operate out of Joe's Bayou. I see you have something to say.
The only comment I would have on that is we will punish the ones who are complying with the law, because some aren't. And I'm in favor of letting people launch, because a lot of the fishing activity goes on at night. So, you know, I would encourage, and I don't think we need a motion because most of us are in agreement to have the city manager look at that and see what we can do to accommodate those guys that are out trying to catch flounders or trying to catch trout, and see what we can do to fix that problem.
Yep, and I don't want to speak on behalf of the park committee. When we were looking at doing the extended hours at the other parks, one of their biggest reasons was the lighting. So I think as we recreate Joe's Bayou, maybe we really make sure that we have that in the plan.
Because, you know, we are going to make some big improvements to the park, so that might be good point, Bobby, is at least for that parking lot right there, because you're only talking a handful of folks using that parking lot after hours normally. It's not like a Saturday on 4th of July where they're parking all over the place. So maybe we could light that particular parking lot really well. Go ahead, Jim.
Do we have any IR capable cameras in that park?
I would have to double check, but I do not believe it is IR.
I don't think we do, but that would be something. I'm not opposed to opening it at night, but somebody damages something of ours, of the city's, I want some way to capture that, and you know, not just one where we see the front of their truck. You know, I want to see their license plate as they drive out with their boat.
I had no idea that you couldn't. I mean, and I know a lot of people have been coming in and out of that ramp at 2 o'clock in the morning, trout fishing and floundering, and I had no idea that we wasn't supposed to. We've been doing it for years, and I didn't know it was a problem, but.
I think Johnny's one too. Yeah. He admitted guilty right here on public record. Would you? We'll allow Lance and staff to look into it, come up with some ideas for us, and work with the Parks Department and all that. So, go ahead, John.
That's all I've got. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Before the item on the agenda, a couple questions. I know our signage policy in the LDC and the code is, you know, it's tough. I know with signs on 98 and changing it and whatnot, but I'm curious, when a new leasee comes into town and leases a building on 98, I know they come get a BTR to do business on 98. How do we enforce or police changing a sign that's there?
So generally signs, if it's just a reface and they're not extending the size, they're not increasing the size, the square footage of the face itself, it is.
But what if they do?
Then it requires a sign permit.
And if they don't get it?
It's denied and they can't do it.
So I guess the example is a new person comes in, they get a BTR or whatever, and 6 months later they put a sign twice as larger, but they never asked anybody. We probably won't even see it. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, but it sounds like the only way we would see it is if they come in to apply to change it. And if they just do it on their own, it's kind of like anybody else doing unpermitted work around the city. They just
unfortunately that is the case. If someone were to just go and build a sign,
can we remove it after the fact? If it wasn't permitted?
There are provisions in the code that can require the removal of signage that's
commercial signage.
Yeah, that's not it as long as it's not legal non-conforming, and then there's other provisions that allow for a certain percentage over square footage allowed.
Gotcha.
But if it's purely unpermitted, then
okay.
We do have provisions.
All right. Somebody asked me, business owner on 98, about a new person that came into town. There's signs that they say don't qualify to be, up to code, but they're flying them high every day.
There are quite a few legal non-conforming signs along Highway 98.
Gotcha.
And I say legal non-conforming in the fact that either they were permitted prior to the current regulations and or the burden of proof is on us to find out. And so if we don't have evidence that it was not permitted, nor permitted prior to the incorporation of the city or, number of other things, then it's difficult to say that it is a non-conforming sign and unpermitted.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Second thing, we just a note to the public and everybody else, we have an election coming up this coming November, and we have unfortunately 3 seats, I believe. 3 seats on the 3 and mayor, and I think we have the period of what do they call it, the qualification period's coming up in a couple of months. And I got a list the other day. We had 1 person on that list, so while we don't get paid, we don't receive any amazing benefits, there are amazing benefits that we do receive from being up here. So I would encourage, if anybody has any interest or is inclined to get your hands dirty, to please put your name in the hat, because we should have a handful of people on that ballot here pretty soon, so don't forget. Number 3, I got some pictures I provided in your agenda packet. Yeah, in case you didn't see them, if anybody didn't get to page 341 of the agenda packet. But out in Walton County and all their beach accesses, you walk along the beach access, and I'm not sure who's in charge of these slides right now, but there's about 5 of them. But it talks about the flag system, talks about, has the Visit South Walton's website, what to do in a rip current, getting the texting for the surf conditions, leave no trace. I mean, just some good information. With kids and even without kids, a lot of times, especially with kids, you're holding your kid's hand, you're looking down the ground usually when you're walking. I mean, it's a visual thing. As I was walking down this boardwalk, to see every 10 or so feet a sign telling you these things. Yes, we do have signage on ours, the big sign, but it's a lot of letters, a lot of words, a lot of information, and most people don't look at that stuff too closely, but 1 or 2 lines of text on a board, it just looked easier, cleaner, and unique. I was told this morning that we looked into it in the past, and there was or wasn't, I don't know what the exact reason why we didn't do it, but what I would like is for this time to bring us back pricing for doing it, to replace some boards on our boardwalks and bring us back a pricing. If I would like to make that a motion. Sure.
Got a motion, got a second, Mr. Bagby?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Kevin, we did that while I was at the TDC in South Walton. And if staff will call Brian Kellenberger, you got his number? Okay. 333-6236, and, yeah. He will give you the vendor that did those and the cost, and the TDC in Walton County paid for those. Of course, there is no incorporated entity there, but that would be a good thing for, unfortunately, our TDC rep who does such a great job. That would be a good thing for her to ask, because it's not that expensive. And little kids notice those things as they're walking down at the beach. It's fires on the beach, it's dogs on the beach, it's everything, you know, leave no trace. And it worked very well. I think the only problem we had was, you know, it gets sandblasted all the time, so you got to go back and redo the letters, recolor the letters or whatever. So, yeah, no, I think it's a great.
Johnny.
Just real quick, I just wanted to say I support that as well. I think we all know about, I think if you grew up in this town or you spend enough time here, you get ads and you get stuff pops up on your Pandora about beach flags and safety and this and that. But if you're from Cleveland, Ohio, you may not get the same notifications. And, you know, the rip current thing I think is awesome. We know what to do in a rip current, but not everybody does, you know, and that could save lives, you know. So even if it saved one life, or made somebody feel calm in a rip current, I think it's awesome. I think it's great. Thanks, Kevin.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Let's go ahead and take a vote on this one. The vote is unanimous. Ayes have it. So moved.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Well, just so nobody thinks I'm an evil, mean guy that don't want kids on my lawn, with our discussion about improving our abatement issue, I ride my bike throughout this town on every road there is in the footprint of Destin, at least every 8 or 9 days. And there are some really disturbing properties and areas that just need some help. And so what I'd like to look into, have our staff look into, is maybe a Community Pride Week or Community Pride Month. Because some of these properties, I think, is either, you know, some people don't have the money. Some people are older and don't have the capabilities to clean up their yards. And I'd like to look at an idea where maybe we provide, the city actually provides waste management dumpsters for a week on certain streets and certain communities. Try to involve the Boys and Girls Club, the Boy Scouts, the high school. You know, most high school kids got to do community service as part of their college application, stuff like that. And get our staff involved. We've talked about adopt a street. Well, I want to adopt a community once a year, you know, for a week or a month, and reach out to our community and tell the people that can't afford to or are infirmed and need help that we're going to put this stuff here and we'll help you clean up your yard and move some of the stuff that maybe you're too old to move, or you just don't have the money to pay a company to come in there and haul off some of your old refrigerators and stuff like that. So I'd like for maybe the staff to come up with an idea, maybe get some pricing of what it would cost us to have some dumpsters for 1 week located strategically throughout through the city, and just as a city provide a week to where everybody just kind of gets community oriented, and just a facelift that we do annually, stuff like that. And it's gonna, I really think it'll help our code enforcement people, the abatement issues, stuff like that, if we try to do a good thing and help people. And then the ones that don't, well, then we have to utilize, you know, something else.
I'll put the mayor's request in the form of a motion so that it has unanimous support. I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none?
No, I think it's great, and I'll just, you know, I mean, I think Fort Walton does a day or a week where they allow the drop-offs of stuff and pickups of, you know, things, which obviously waste management, the Mondays are fantastic, but I think it's a great idea.
And we do have, you know, we got the Monday pickup, but when you look at the when you look at some of these properties, you could tell that, you know, there's older folks that live there or people that just may not financially have the wherewithal. And I think by making it like a situational awareness for everybody, incorporating some nonprofits and people that want to do community service, we could really help people out and make our town look a whole heck of a lot better. So we got a motion, got a second. Let's go ahead and take a vote and we'll just make it official. Ayes have it, so moved. So don't have to be done tomorrow. We heap enough stuff on your head. So as time allows, and we'll come up with some ideas and a plan, and we'll bring it back before the council.
Yeah, hopefully October, November work days.
Yeah, because I think the cool weather's about over.
As someone who will be out there, I would really appreciate
this
the
is
60,
not. We don't want to
70
do
weather.
a community work day July 19th. Because I'm going to stay in the air conditioning. I won't help. But anyways, I hope that we can initiate something like that, Bobby, and make a difference in people's lives. It will help the community as a whole, but I think there's going to be some people that are going to be truly appreciative that we can provide this service once a year.
And while we're not official with Waste Management yet, they have donated dumpsters in the past for us, so they're definitely going to be open for that.
I think we've lost Miss Kopp. I think the New Jersey Devils are playing right now, so she's probably watching them. And oh, there she comes. I forgot it's the Long Island. It's Islanders. I don't know why I keep thinking you like the New Jersey. You're not a Jersey
It's
girl.
the Long Islanders, but did I miss a question?
No, you didn't. It's just your turn to if you have any comments or presentations.
I have no comments, thank you.
Thank you. Go back to the hockey game. Kyle.
A couple things. One update and request for direction, if any, from the council. As you're probably aware by now, Dr. Ramswell pleaded no contest and was adjudicated guilty as to 2 counts of a public records violation. She did send Lance and I an email that day that says, and I quote, "Please contact Governor DeSantis' office to initiate the process of lifting my suspension and reinstating me." Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that is the process that would take place. It is for the governor to decide, in his decision alone, whether she is reinstated or removed in accordance with the statute. In doing some research and speaking with peer organizations, it seems that typically the agency, the city in this case, does not take that type of action on behalf of a suspended council member or agency member. So Lance and I do not plan on taking any direction in this instance unless otherwise directed by the council. And if so directed, we will of course adhere to council's direction.
How was that process normally handled?
Normally, and keep in mind, there's not like a whole lot of examples of this, but normally what I've found in my couple days of research is the person who is affected, herself in this case, is the one that advocates for her reinstatement, or sometimes the public official will resign.
So she would, I guess, do it herself, or her attorney could do it for her, or?
That's right. That's typically what I have seen occurs.
Thanks.
Anything else?
I did just want to let the council know that my wife is due to give birth to my daughter here in the next couple weeks, and so I will likely not be at the next council meeting, maybe not the second meeting in May as well, but we do have, of course, other members of my firm, and Kim will be here, so they will be covering for me. But y'all are still welcome to call me and wish me congratulations.
We will gladly do that, sir. Praying for your baby, your wife, and you. It's going to be an exciting event in your life again. All right. Last but not least, any public comments before we adjourn tonight's meeting? Seeing none. Meeting adjourned.